Welcome to Curry Girl Tech Talk. I am Crystal Curry. Sports is a huge revenue generating machine. This year, the National Football League generated $800 million in gross revenue from the Super Bowl advertising sales. It was a sold out game. The National Basketball Association generates an astonishing $400 million for their All-Star weekend as the NBA entices fans to engage with their new format changes to see players team up for an exciting show of skill, athleticism, and camaraderie amongst what would otherwise be rivaling competitors. And now we're in the midst of March Madness, and NCAA teams are tipping off to the tune of more than $900 million for the men's tournament alone. So I like to set up my March Madness bracket, sit back and watch the games and eat a little popcorn or crawfish or lately I've been trying to be healthier. And so I'm incorporating things like pistachios and eating healthier. But the revenue generating aspects of the game left me hungry to know more about sports and the ties to leadership. Today, I am talking about the connection between sports and leadership and 3 ways that you can elevate your own leadership game for big wins in business. So 95% of CEOs played collegiate sports. All right, I am sure that the correlation between sports and leadership have been presented in more eloquent fashion. However, the parallels between the two are undeniable and is such a relatable way of discussing leadership. I am a huge sports aficionado and love the similarities to leadership that we are discussing today. While basketball and football may reign supreme in the United States, we have swim, soccer, which is the European version of football, and cricket and other athletics that require the same amount of discipline, rigor, athleticism, and skill. In terms of collegiate sports, there are 4 athletic programs with a valuation above the $1 billion mark, including Ohio State at number 1, Texas Longhorns, Texas A&M, and Michigan Wolverines. And then, everybody is aware of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and they are coming in at number 5. When we look at these valuations, of course, there is private equity interest there because of the fan base and enthusiasm surrounding college sports. All right. And, I always want to make sure that I include women who are making big accomplishments in sports. NCAA women are crushing the competition with big teams, looking at basketball coaches like Dawn Staley making an indelible mark at South Carolina, and the legacy of the late Pat Summitt at Tennessee. And National Football League is gaining momentum with their incorporation of flag football, which flag football is a no-contact version of American football that is inclusive of some impressive women in that sport as well. Flag football is expanding its reach globally, including other countries, as they host invitationals for the sport as well. So here are 3 ways that you can elevate your own leadership game for big wins in business. So number 1, one of my favorite lines in a movie is from a football movie, actually. It's called Remember the Titans. In the scene, 2 of the leading characters are having a heated debate about offense and defense for their team. And one says something to the effect of, "Your attitude stinks," to which the other replies, "Attitude reflects leadership." And I love that line because it's a true statement. The dynamics of this team were challenging, as it can be in each of our business sectors. If you haven't seen the movie, I encourage you to watch it. It's actually a really good film. Number 1 is the right paradigm, right? Shifting your paradigm is one of the steps that I speak about in my leadership approach elevate. It's an old adage, if you believe you can, then you will. A lot of athletes are often asked about what factors led to their achievement outside of just being blessed with natural physique, speed, or agility. And often the response is that mindset is a key component of achieving success in sports. Many athletes attribute dedication, hard work, mental resilience, and a strong belief in self-confidence and their abilities. Those are the admirable characteristics that help them succeed in sports. Our mindset is often the key to overcoming the challenges. The team attitude and culture is a reflection of the leader. Have you ever been to a church and it seems that the parishioners have similar personalities to the pastor? Or have you joined a new organization and noticed that the leader is largely absent? And you can tell that the team lacks organization and often their work has been neglected. Your leadership traits are often reflected in team behaviors. What is your team reflecting back to you? Is your team enthusiastic? Are they operating with clarity and focus, unafraid to speak up and ask the tough questions? The good thing is that you can change your leadership approach to help influence better actions and behaviors. All right, so one aspect of sports that I actually enjoy, and I'm not sure if this would be popular opinion, but one aspect of sports that I enjoy is trash talk. All right, I believe when done right and in good humor and in good spirit of the competition is a fun thing. We often hear trash talk as a way of getting into the psyche of the competing team, which is an entertaining aspect of sports and displaying a competitive passion for the game. One way that trash talk translated well in business was the online Twitter war between the CEO of T-Mobile and CEO of Sprint as they took to the web to reiterate things like expanding mobility networks, advertising campaigns, and fees for certain plans and services. Well, their battle ended in a merger between the two, creating a massive 5G network at the time. My point is that business can be just as competitive as sports is, and projecting confidence, having the right paradigm, and strategizing for the long haul and keeping your options open can lead to a victory in the end. Altitude is being able to soar irrespective of the challenge and keeping a good attitude in the face of competition. Number two way that you can elevate your leadership game for big wins in business is resilience. All right, so athletes take on a regimen that includes obviously a significant amount of physical training and diet. And one of the keys to regimen is consistency and repetition. That leads to muscle memory, right? And by having a disciplined routine, athletes can capitalize on their ability to maintain stamina and perform at peak levels during games or competition. Their toughness and grit in the game can be attributed to their preparation and resilience. For business, having a consistent leadership presence and establishing a routine for yourself is a way to level up. I was reading about this phenomena called missing leadership. Your team notices your presence and it influences their behaviors. The ebbs and flows of business require that we remain firm and resilient in the midst of economic downturns, supply and demand changes, and other market fluctuations. We adjust fees and capital expenditures but keeping steady in the midst of hard times and through the vicissitudes of business is a leadership strength. Having a physical presence, I know it takes a lot out of you. It's draining sometimes to have people pulling from you at all levels. So, having a regimen of being consistent and strategic about how you present yourself and how you show up takes a lot from you as a leader. But in the grand scheme, establishing a routine for yourself can help you achieve discipline and, often will help you get a team win, big wins. When I started my career, It started as a merger between two massive Fortune 500 companies. For a brief time, I had a manager. I was new. She'd hired me and I met her in the interview. But anyway, she had a desk and my office was behind hers. In order to get to my office, I had to pass her desk every single day. There was no way in or out without passing her office. And one of the things I noticed is that people would get their assignments by whoever was walking by her desk at the time. And, her desk was just full of a stack of papers. And, seemingly she would reach in and grab a random piece of paper and, say, here's your assignment. And I just think at the time, mergers can be, if anybody has been through mergers and acquisitions or have worked in that field, it was chaos at the time, a whole bunch of things going on at once. And I think her desk just reflected what we were in the midst of. And she was gathering all this data and all this information about what we do and how we do it. And I think she, obviously had insight into what things were going on and was more than likely anticipating or planning her departure. I just thought whoever randomly walked by her desk would get an assignment, and her desk was just stacked with full of papers. But anyway, I just dread walking by her desk and I had no choice. I attributed that stack of papers on her desk as being a type of discipline in a way that she had everything sort of arranged. And for us as leaders, making a mark in the business and achieving success in the market is having a disciplined way and a strategic method to the way that we achieve our organizational goals. Just as the consistent regimen helps athletes achieve peak levels during a competition and keeps them in shape. That is the same way of having a consistent leadership practice for yourself. Helps you be able to predict certain things. And it comes with time, right? It's a repetition. It's a learning process. It's a process that over time you begin to hone in on your own skill. And, I realize that takes a lot of discipline in order to make that happen. So investing in yourself and taking the time to ensure that you are consistent with your own leadership practice and process makes that discipline achievable and helps you to have business success. All right, so the final characteristic that defines sports athletes and that you can use to level up your leadership game is playing to strengths. Yes, leadership can be a lonely journey and it is a huge responsibility. The weight of that can have us feeling overwhelmed. However, some of that work burden can be lifted from us if we learn to rely upon team strengths. A leadership asset is knowing your team well and their strengths and knowing yourself well, your strengths and weaknesses. The point guard in basketball is the leader of the floor, right? He or she can call the plays, look down the court, sizing up the competition. They can easily see, okay, maybe my center is towering over the guard. Let me toss the ball high for an easy dunk. An easy 2 points. Or the quarterback has the vision of the field, knowing where to send the ball. Winning requires understanding how to work collaboratively, getting the best out of your teammates, while at the same time overcoming obstacles threatening to impede a victory. This is easily translated into achieving business goals and outperforming the competition in sales, profits, and revenue. Understanding how to unite people and boosting their performance by considering their best gifts, talents, and areas of expertise. Playing to their strengths and assets often allows your team to excel and frees them to excel in their lane. Surrounding yourself with a dream team of high-performing individuals and drawing upon their expertise is a leadership power move. A real boss move is increasing your people quotient and understanding the power of influence to create that team synergy. Playing to your strengths means understanding what your strengths are. And as a part of being a leader, it's understanding what you excel in, what you're great at, and areas that you might not be so great at. Acknowledging those areas and choosing to either level up in those areas or delegate those things that are already performed at a high level by other members of your team. Surrounding yourself with a key leadership team that's going to help elevate the performance is smart. It's a clever tactic that not enough leaders implement for themselves. You can't do everything. Each team member has a role on the team, right? And you're not the sole competitor. So being the lone wolf is not going to get a team victory. But delegating, understanding how and when to delegate, and understanding who to delegate to are key components to leveling up your leadership game. You want to be able to depend and rely upon your team to get things done. As you go out and lead and do the things that is required to ensure that the company vision, mission, and strategy go forth as planned, it is necessary that your team members step up to the plate and that you can rely and depend on them to do what they're tasked with doing. And then having the confidence to empower them to do their jobs is key. As a minority, I've often felt a bit of imposter syndrome. Oftentimes I've been the only female or person of color at the table. To others who may have felt the same way, I just want to encourage you to remember that you were hired for a reason. Don't be shy about bringing your unique perspective to the table. You deserve to be at the table just as much as anyone else does. Have a confident attitude. I remember being in a meeting with several C-suite executives discussing an embarrassing technology error that had caused a major outage, and it was costing the company big money. It had been a failure for several departments and was a huge learning experience. I remember sitting in the meeting, listening to the conversation, just wondering, why was no one mentioning what could be done to fix it? I waited for silence to fill the room, and then I saw an opportunity to speak up. And I spoke up and stated what I had determined to be the problem, and I offered a solution. The room was silent for a good couple minutes, in which it was enough time for me to contemplate my exit and think about how I would overcome a massive failure. But during that time, just as I was about to exit the room, one of the other leaders, he said, "Well, Crystal offered a solution. What do we think? Are there any objections?" And after which a conversation ensued about some minor details of the solution, and later teams were tasked with implementing that solution. If I had not spoken up, the issue could have continued to cost the company money each day. So be bold and courageous. Often quoted thing that if you're the smartest person in the room, then you're in the wrong room. And by surrounding ourselves with a superior team and playing to each other's strengths, enable us to grow as individuals and to conquer major feats in business and to accomplish legendary things that may have not been able to accomplish on our own. So those are 3 ways that you can elevate your leadership game for big wins in business. All of us are able to utilize this analogy of team sports to elevate our leadership approach. Finally, I'd like to dedicate this episode to my cousin, whom was murdered senselessly after a sports game. His name is Hashim Hagabuk. We love you and we remember you always. I am Crystal Curry. Take care.